Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? Yeah? Just like wave both of your hands if you're like still alive, yeah? That's like 20% of people waving their hands. Can we get a bit more, please? Just a few more hands in the air.
Sorry,
Yeah?
my notes.
Come on, hands in the air like left, oh sorry, right, left. Okay, thank you for coming to our panel. Very much appreciated. We're going to do some short introductions first, if that's okay with you. Yeah? I'll start by saying, panelists, thank you very much for participating. Each of you are beyond experts in your fields. So, you know, I, for one, I'm happy to be sat here with such great professionals. And we're going to start by addressing a little bit of a point that Desmond actually brought up in a conversation that we had recently. Do you remember the question, Desmond?
I don't remember 5 minutes ago.
Okay, do any of you remember the question?
What?
All right, cool.
Okay,
So-
what I said, I do remember. I said, what is creation? What is a creative thing? What is a song? And who owns it once it's created? Isn't that what I said?
That's the question. And what I'd love to do is if each of you could answer that question, like what is a creation and who owns it? And then just briefly introduce yourself. I'd love just each of your opinion. You can, Desmond, you can go first.
No, please.
You start.
I start? Okay. It's a big, very broad question. What is creation? Because it's so many forms of creation. Look at this building, right? But in terms of music, which is the field that I'm in, I'm a songwriter since I was a little baby. And my mother was a songwriter. And, you know, I didn't know that people didn't write songs because everybody around me was either a poet saying a poem or doing something like that. And so later on, I found out that if I wrote a song and I put my name on it, it's automatically a copyright. So I have rights that are built into it by law for the songs that I write. And of course, most of my songs are collaborations anyway. So there's, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 of us that have rights. And so I think that, you know, this is at the core of what AI has come into our world and created a disruption of that format. And, you know, I'm here to explain, you know, my position. How's that for an intro?
That's perfect. And who are you? Do you want to just give a quick snapshot of who Desmond Child is?
Oh, me.
Songwriter.
I prefer when other people talk good about me. Anyway, I started out, you know, when I was in my 20s in New York, and I met Paul Stanley of KISS. He came to see my show, and subsequently we wrote one of the biggest songs in the world called I Was Made for Loving You. That is pretty much, to date, it's over 1.5 billion streams, and it's KISS's biggest song. And so that song changed my life because I was able to come out of poverty, be able to bring my mother out of poverty, you know, and be the thing that was always there and it still is there. And I'm so pleased and surprised that, you know, it was used in The Fall Guy, and Youngblood sang it brilliantly. So the song keeps finding new audiences. And so the other, you know, big songs I worked on were Living on a Prayer, You Give Love a Bad Name, Alice Cooper, Poison, Joan Jett, I Hate Myself for Loving You. Well, I don't want to bore you to tears, but it's 80 top 40 songs, and you know, I've written over 4,000 songs, and it took writing those 4,000 to get into the 80, and of those 80, maybe 10 made it into the top 10. So it takes a lot of songwriting to get good.
Thank you.
So,
Yep.
you know, that's what I tell people that, you know, ask me, well, what does it take to be in the business? And, you know, I always say that if you're asking that question, turn around and get away from me as far as possible. Because it has to be in your blood. And so, anyway, that's the thing. AI doesn't have blood. That's
does it?
scary, right?
Not yet. Margarita,
Yes.
would you like to answer that question? What is a creation? Who owns it? And briefly introduce yourself.
Okay, first of all, I'm Margarita, the CEO of Autodia, the leading CMO in Greece, and we represent and collect rights for composers and lyricists. So, first of all, I would like to thank Panathēnea and Lars and Leonidas for this invitation. It is a great honor for us, and for me personal, and Autodia, of course, and I'm very happy for this panel. So, regarding your question, of course, Desmond is more expert than me because I'm a technocrat, but for my opinion, I think that we have to deal with human beings, first of all. AI-generated music, sorry, I have my notes because it is a complicated question, is not owned by anyone, of course, on a collective, on a copyright level. And as such, so far it is not licensed or generates income for a CMO.
Yeah.
This is the international guideline for us. So, for the CMO in Greece and internationally, the protection of human creativity is our mission. And I would like to share something with you. For example, recently I read the autobiography of Desmond, and you should, everybody here, read it. And I understood through his words how a composer can write a song, his feelings, his emotions, his life experiences. So, can a machine replace the feelings and how a creator could write a song? As Margarita, I think no. AI cannot replace the human creativity in any way.
Okay. Thank you. Chris.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. So, just starting with creation, I think it is the process and also the end result of bringing something new into existence. Now, there's many levels to what happens when you know, from that statement. I work with songwriters, I work with producers of music, I also work across film and TV and advertisers. So for me, when I'm working with a songwriter or a producer, not only is it the end result that they are the owner of, but it's also the process throughout. Because as Desmond said, Desmond collaborates. Desmond may start a song and bring someone else in to help complete that song. So the process, up until Desmond has brought someone else in, he's owned and created. When he brings someone else in, they have to come to some sort of an agreement, whether it's, you know, whether it's verbal, whether it's contractual, to who actually owns that creation. And then obviously when the end product is put out, that's the final product in existence. So those two people operate in that stance. So I sort of look at AI in a sense, as it pertains to what I do, in a sense that, you know, people are using AI and technology to create songs, right? You could be in a writer's block, maybe throw some things in the ChatGPT and it gives you an idea. There are artists who I always say, I love hip hop. A lot of hip hop producers early on didn't even know where middle C was, but what they were doing was piecing together samples and creating something new. But part of that process and the end result, you would give who you were sampling credit and they would own and create because there's agreements on sample clearances. But the end result, they also were part of that creative process. So it's a very deep question. This is sort of just my sort of 30,000 foot statement on it. And then just for perspective, what I do, so I oversee a global creative team in which we own copyrights, and I'm trying to get those copyrights placed in film, TV, ads, trailers, and a team of 27 globally that are trying to do the same.
Thank you. Leonidas.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here. I thank the people of Panathēnea. I'm Leonidas, or Leonidas, whatever you prefer. I'm the CEO of ΕΚΚΟΜΕΔ, which is the governmental organization for the entertainment sector in Greece, mainly film and television, but now we also enter music festivals, video game development and everything. So in essence, we are the ones that kind of regulate and support from a governmental point of view the creative sector, the audiovisual creative sector in Greece. So I've been thinking a lot about the question that you said you would ask as a first question. I wrote down some notes, but as I was sitting over there, I was thinking that actually, because I am a policymaker and because I also enter the creative process whenever I need to create a policy for the entertainment sector, and I was trying, to do a little bit of reverse engineering and imagine what does it mean to create something. I said that, well, actually, creativity is the guy who is having a bath and suddenly says, Eureka, and has an idea. And the guy who actually is in the bath and has the idea and says Eureka, like Archimedes did when he, in the ancient times, is the one who owns the idea regardless of, what kind of technological or even other kind of tools he can use to perfect his idea, to make it better, to make it more nice towards people. Because let's not forget that what we're talking about AI, and when we're talking about AI as a tool, we could also talk about what is the creative process in a band, where a person has an idea, but the whole band enters the process of making this idea better. So in a way, it's an analogy in my eyes, the way I think it. So I would say that creativity is the first idea that somebody has in his bath, in his shower, anywhere he can be, and all the rest are facilitating tools for this idea to become better, and he owns it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I like what you mentioned about collaboration and creativity. And when we look at what AI has done, right, it's basically lowered the barrier to creativity. It's allowed more people to be able to create at levels and at speeds they previously couldn't. A perfect example is, well, it's still early days, but the recent partnership between the biggest record label, Universal Music Group, and the biggest music platform, Spotify, in which they allow premium users to remix, to collaborate, and to essentially recreate existing music owned by rights holders, right? So one could argue this is all part of the creation and collaborative process. I'd love to know, any of you can answer this, but I'd definitely love to know Chris's point of view. Of course, you coming from Kobalt, sync licensing background. Is it opening the opportunity gap to more people to be able to generate revenue in your world? And then also for yourself, Desmond, what does that mean for you as a songwriter? How do you, or as a creative, how do you approach songwriting now knowing that there are more either potential collaborators or more challengers?
Well, I'll start with just really quickly because I know time. From what I've read and know about the partnership between Universal and Spotify and for end user creators to be able to make covers and remixes, to be honest with you, as a publisher and dealing with copyright, we're actually protected because, for instance, I represent, or we admin the publishing for members of Fleetwood Mac. If you wanted to make a cover of Landslide, the songwriter in that instance is still protected, no matter if there's 1,000 covers. Now, what it's going to do, how it's going to generate more revenue is if I did the cover, just me, Chris Lakey, and I'm not an artist, not to get technical, but I own that master, but Kobalt and the songwriters, Stevie Nicks, would still control the songwriting portion of Landslide. So honestly, there's really no, I know that that's sort of a headline deal between, between Universal and Spotify, but that's actually very protected. And that's something that I actually encourage. That's how new young artists discover music. That's how people, reinterpolate or cover songs in different languages in their own style. So that to me is a great integration of AI, because I know that, I'm pretty certain that they've worked out whatever the rates are, but as a songwriter, as a protector of songwriters, that's totally fine in my purview, so.
Well, in my case, can you hear me okay? All right. I inadvertently got to be a co-writer of a very famous song called the Thong Song. Remember? Because at the time, I had a very big song called Livin' La Vida Loca. And so the three writers that wrote the Thong Song decided, oh, well, Livin' La Vida Loca is sort of like a vibe. Except that they used my words, which are very specific. Livin', I came up with, La Vida Loca, right? And it was a copywritten thing between me and Draco Rosa, my co-writer. And so they felt free to just put it in the song. Well, guess what? They released it, and then my publishers reached out and said, hey, you know what? You don't have permission to do that. Now, this is at the very beginning of sampling, right? So we didn't know any better, but we could have said, well, guess what? You have the master rights of the audio. We own 100% of Vida Loca. I don't care what else you came up with. If you want to use that hook. Now, imagine the Thong Song without Livin' La Vida Loca. I mean, it wouldn't be the same. It would not. So it contributed a lot to the success of that song. So then they go on and make a documentary and say, oh, Desmond Child, his lawyers came in, and then he's making more than I am. It's like, not really. You've had, I only get 12.5% of the song. How do I make more than them? Plus, they get the merchandise, the ticket sales, and all the auxiliary licensing that goes with it. But I just wanted to say one thing about that song. It's the most licensed song in my catalog. Every week, 2 or 3 licenses for the Thong Song. And it's not Livin' La Vida Loca. It's just the bass drum or some other little hook or something like that they sampled and put into, usually it's urban music. And so, okay, there are laws of interpolation, right? They didn't have the right, and I could have made more had I been an asshole, but we were, polite, and we said, okay, fine. And guess what? They made me a lot of money. But I don't want somebody just being able to keep doing that without permission. Because what if they write an anthem for something I don't stand for at all? I can't say, you can't, have that represent the, Nazis or something. It's like, I wouldn't want that, and I have to have control over the usage of my music. Now, you say, the opt out, right? They're saying that you can opt out. But really what they should be saying is, you can opt in, because it's so wonderful. And assume that everyone's out until they opt in. But they're not going to do it that way. Why? Because they'd have to reach out to their 2 billion songwriters out there and say, do you want to opt in or opt out? It's really unfair the way they're just grabbing the catalogs and making deals. And I don't think that for the deals that they're making, I don't know, because I'm not deep into it. I don't know if remember before with Spotify and all that, the record companies, and the publishers got huge bonuses, but that didn't pass down to the writers. So we always have to be on top of it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's talk about revenue and the impact AI is having, right? Margarita, I'd love to know what you're seeing on the ground, yeah? Do you see a big shift in the way revenues are coming and are being collected? And which stages and groups are being impacted most? And then after that, Leonidas, I'd like to know also from a funding perspective, how has funding changed? How are you selecting? Is the opportunity broader? But let's start with Margarita first.
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, let's discuss about the figures because, as always, are significant. So there is a research published by CISAC. CISAC is our international umbrella for all CMOs worldwide, published in 2024. So the results showed that in 2028, the impact of AI will be 21%. We will have a drop in the revenue, 21% for audiovisual productions, and for our sector, music, 24%. We have to know that music industry worldwide is a very important sector generally. So these percentages are significant. For example, in Greece, because we are here in our country, the main source of revenue in Autodia and general in Greece is public performance or the revenues from background music. So, for example, the forecast for 2026 for public performance would be 25 to 30 million euros. Okay, if we'll multiply the 24% to our total revenue, you can imagine that our creators, generally Greek composers and lyricists, and of course our international repertory, will lose, at least from Greek repertory. You can imagine Germany, France, other European countries, a significant, huge amount of their royalties. So it is very important to protect the creators, and at the end of the day, we have to find a solution and an agreement with AI companies in order to gain the royalties for our creators.
What does protection look like? Like, what does protection look like when you say to protect? What are the most promising solutions?
For example, for us...
and sorry, I say that because traditionally, we can't use this, I think, right? We can't use the same methods that we've been using traditionally because these are non-traditional changes. So I'm curious, what's next? Like, what does protection look like tomorrow?
For example, we are remaining here in Greece and generally that AI will replace original repertories and songs in cafes, venues, and so on. So the protection is to have an agreement with these companies who produce, AI songs in order to collect for our creators. It is important.
Yeah.
So for us, we need a fair remuneration and transparency.
Yeah.
Otherwise, imagine that the hotels, for example, our hotels, receptions, and all the venues of the hotels, and etc., there will play AI and not our original works.
Yeah.
This is the protection, to sit on the table with the AI companies and to find a fair solution, like the publishers. And I would like to share with you that we don't know in the CMO community which are the agreements with the publishers.
Yeah.
I have a couple of points. One is, if you're out there and you want to be a great songwriter, go to music school, right? Study, learn an instrument. You know, not just be a parasite on top of somebody else's creativity. But, you know, that's you know, the ship has passed. But still, think about the scale, though. How many songs are released per week?
100
Just out there by random people, by big artists, by everybody.
I think Spotify said something like, what, like 2 million?
2 million songs.
Across all this is across any platform globally.
Okay, who's listening to this? Who's checking out those 2 million songs? And what does that mean financially? Unless it's the creme de la creme on top, you know, Billie Eilish or something like that, where everybody's going to go there to listen to it. So a lot of this is like kind of theoretical, that all of a sudden there's going to be millions of #1 songs that are going out there. They're not. And it's a little bit crazy if you think about it.
It is.
Right?
It's an influx.
However,
Leonidas.
if I may add to what Desmond said,
Yes, please.
I totally agree with Desmond. If you want to be a songwriter, go to a music school. If you want to be a filmmaker, go to a film school. If you want to find audiences, though, you can use technology.
Yeah, tell me more.
Because, in my opinion, what technology actually does, what AI actually does, is open up the audiences. I mean, you saw what happened with Obsession, the film movie that was released a few months ago. I mean,
What do you mean? Public domain music? Is that what you were just saying?
I'm saying that technology gives the opportunity to filmmakers, to songwriters, without having intermediaries necessarily, to open up their creativity and their creation to wider audiences that otherwise they wouldn't be able to. That is my main point on this issue about technology, which is actually supportive to what you say. When you want to become a creator, you need to go to a music school. That's the good thing. That's the main thing. When you're a filmmaker, you need to go to a film school. You need to learn, and you need to be, not just have good ideas, but also be able to master the creativity process that you have when you're writing a song and when you're doing a film.
And how are you funding? How has funding changed for you? And bear in mind, we have 3 minutes left, and there's one more question I want all of you to answer.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I want to know from a funding perspective here, how is the landscape changing?
Well, actually, it hasn't. It hasn't changed a lot. I mean, the funding schemes that we use and many other European countries use when it comes to filmmakers or when it comes to music, and when we're talking about state aid, right? Towards supporting creativity, do not necessarily have incorporated this aspect of how AI and how technology alters things. Because in my opinion, I mean, when you have a production coming to Greece, and that production uses bits and pieces of technology, of AI, how can I be able to assess right now in his application, let's say?
I want to add something else about the creative process. Because as an experiment, I put a song of mine into ChatGPT, a new song. And so it wasn't copywritten, so it couldn't say, can't do nothing. Put it in, and I said, can you make this song better? And what it came back with was so bad, except for one word. And it was a synonym to another word, and I hadn't thought of it. So I used one word. And so, you know, that's actually different than letting AI do all the work, because I prompted the question, and so different subjects, but I believe that the geniuses of the future are the people that really know how to prompt creatively. So what is the difference between that and me telling a programmer, can you get me a beat that sounds like, you know, Bad Bunny? What's that beat that he played? He had it at the Super Bowl. I want to write a song to that beat. So that's allowable, right? So in a way, what's the difference? The thing is that when that programmer comes up with the beat, I go, you know what? Take the hi-hat out. That sounds stupid. And so all of a sudden, okay, all I got is boom, 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 boom. Okay, and that gives me inspiration to do something with it. So my view is, you know, let's say, you know, because still at the Copyright Office, I think, and maybe it's changed in Washington, they're saying, we will only copyright the part of the song that was created by a human. The rest of it, we can't copyright.
Okay.
But it's like, who's going to fess up what was AI and what was original? It's impossible. It's an impossible task. So my view is, if you're a producer or a dreamer, and you prompt your AI machine to do things, to go this way, to go that way, to play that chord. No, that's too this way, do that way. Give me a vocalist. Oh no, that sounds too Mariah Carey. Make it more Whitney. And all of a sudden, there you go, boom. and all of this, you're actually like the conductor in an orchestra. So that really is creativity.
Thank you very much. Desmond, you've actually just answered my last question, so thank you.
Okay.
Chris, Leonidas, and Margarita, I'd like you to answer this, is that if there's one thing that has to be changed or to be built or some kind of collaboration or legislation that you think should happen for this space to move forward so people can get better funded, so works can get better used, people can credit, compensated, etc. What would that one thing be from your industry perspective?
Wow.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And think about the room as well. I'm not sure who we have in the room. I'm not sure if we have investors, founders, builders, lawyers, you know. So I'm also hoping that we can leave something here that people can build on top of.
I don't know if there's one catch-all solution, but what I would say from my perspective, having worked with artists, been around artists on all scales, and then also I've been working on the business side of music since the year 2001 and seeing how it's changed, and working across media. So I do work in music, but also work in film space, in the television space, production companies. I think, for this audience, what would really help is, I know the focus is, as it should be, on AI creation and music, remixing which gets all the headlines. But below that is really needing more simple information for the amount of data sets that we see on the business side. Desmond, honestly, if I looked at one of Desmond's, all his statements, his financial statements on one song, on Livin' La Vida Loca, there's probably 14,000 different ways that song can make income. He's Desmond.
Maybe I'm with the wrong publisher.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, you're Desmond Child. You have a great attorney. You have a great manager. You have, you walk into the room and you can change, the ecosystem and the system. Think about artists who are doing actually very well, but maybe they only do 2 million streams. However, they don't have that infrastructure to know how is their money making, how is their song that's playing in all of these cafes here in Athens, even if it's 10 cents, how is that money getting back to them because they live in Brooklyn, New York? How is their song in a film in Poland? How are they seeing that money? So there needs to be my grand sort of solution for people here, if you're investors or you're building. The creative part, that's great, but learn about sort of the economic stacks that live within this very convoluted music industry and start there and make things more easy, because even though we're talking about cents, this adds up for artists on all scales. And I just think that would be, from just where I sit and having done this for a long time, that would just be one idea on a 30,000 foot level that I would present to the audience.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll say my last words. We need international, global, reciprocal agreements that all match. Because now EU is going off on its own one way, the US is doing something else, and then there are countries that aren't opting in to any kind of agreements. So this is a problem that really has to be, that's what we elect our leaders to do. But if we could just remember the 3 C's, which is, for the use of my music, I want consent, I want credit, and I want compensation. Those are essential so that we can have a business. We don't just sit in our bedrooms. We have buildings, we have synthesizers, we have engineers, we have a lot of overhead, lawyers, managers. Everybody's taking something out of our pocket. So how are we going to do that if the scale is minuscule? We wouldn't be able to. We'd have to shut down. And that's where the creativity is shut down, because great people, wouldn't bother anymore to do anything. So the 3 C's, which are consent, credits, and compensation. Got it? And Child for Desmond Child.
For Autodia, for example, we have a lot of deals with big platforms, streaming and video on demand in Greece, such as Netflix, Disney+, and etc. So for us, although it was very difficult, believe me, the negotiations were very hard because we're a small country with many problems. It is another story and to discuss in another panel. Because we developed a relationship with these platforms as partners, not as not only as licensees. We think that we should do exactly the same with the AI companies, as I said before. For us, they are another partner. That's why it is necessary to create a win-win situation between the CMO and the AI companies. And to sum up, the CMOs, and not only in Greece and in general, as far as I know, aren't enemies of AI. We are open-minded. For example, every day we are trying to explore with my management team AI tools in order to to improve the services to our members. Okay, but it is something else than protection. So it is very important for us as a CMO and for every CEO also to adapt the new developments. And to close, I have more or less the same motto as a CEO of Autodia. We need three things. As Desmond said, and I'm very happy because we have exactly the same idea: fair remuneration, compensation, license, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margarita. And last but not least, Leonidas.
Well, I don't have many things to add to what the other speaker said, actually, but from a state, let's say, perspective, okay, I totally agree. We always try, and that's what I'm doing at ΕΚΚΟΜΕΔ, that we're trying to find the balance between the two AIs, the artificial intelligence and the artistic intelligence, because at the end of the day, technological innovation is not a bad thing. If we all agree on that, then it becomes a matter of trying to find the right balance to actually have the three C's and the three things that Desmond and Margarita said for the creators. Desmond said the European Union does this and the US does that, and he's completely right. On the European side, we have a lot of regulations. We like to regulate everything. I don't know how effective that is, because at the end of the day, you will always have, you know, a young kid, a young innovator at a garage who's going to break the regulations and create something completely new and make money out of it. On the other hand, you need regulation on some point to be able to have what the other speakers actually said. So for me, it's just a matter of creating more trust on the creative ecosystem. And that means educate the young people, have literacy on AI, on what AI means, have, you know, a good, let's say, acquaintance between creators, technological firms and companies, try to see what one means to the other, and instead of constantly trying to regulate things, create a culture of cooperation between technology, innovation, and the creative process. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. And in closing, thank you everybody for your time. If this inspired you, you've got somebody who can write the song for you here. This guy can help you fund it, so you can pay him. He can get it placed, and she can find you the money where it was placed. So you have a full package here. This is like a ready-made business plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.